heard his boots before I saw his face. They were heavy and loud, hitting the floor in even, controlled steps as he walked behind me. I didn't turn around. I didn't need to. I already knew who it was. Rowan, my new bodyguard, the king's best soldier, trained in every kind of weapon, quiet, serious, not much older than me, but colder than winter. People said he could kill a man with his bare hands in under 10 seconds. I believed them, and now he was mine, assigned to guard me, protect me, shadow me, every hour, every day, from morning tea to midnight dreams. It wasn't the danger I hated. It wasn't even him. It was his eyes, always watching me. Thank you so much for your support on this channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, please take a moment to hit the subscribe button and join our growing community at Cherryboyhearts BL. Your support means a lot and helps us keep sharing more amazing stories. Now, sit back, relax, and let the story begin. Your Highness, he said flatly as I opened the garden door. His voice was low, steady. I told you not to call me that when it's just us, I muttered, stepping outside. The sun was soft today, warm on my face. The wind stirred the trees gently. My favorite time of day, a quiet hour before court. But he followed. He always did. I have orders, he replied simply. I will follow them. I turned and looked at him, tall, strong. His dark hair was tied back in a low knot, and his face was carved with sharp angles. His armor wasn't flashy, just black leather over a navy tunic, but it looked dangerous on him. He stood perfectly still, one hand near the hilt of his sword, his eyes locked on me, always watching. I'm not going to be attacked by flowers, I said, annoyed. He said nothing. Typical. I sighed and walked deeper into the garden, running my hand along the rose bushes. I could feel his gaze behind me, steady and heavy like a weight on my back. Do you enjoy this? I asked suddenly, glancing over my shoulder. His brows drew together. Enjoy what? Following me around like a ghost, never speaking, just staring. There was a short silence. Then he said, I'm doing my job. You look at me like I'm a bomb that might go off. Another pause. He tilted his head slightly. No, I look at you like someone might try to set you on fire. I blinked. What? Later that day, I sat by the window in my chambers, reading a book I wasn't really focused on. Rowan stood by the door, arms crossed, not moving. His sword gleamed faintly in the candlelight. He hadn't said a single word since we left the garden. I tried not to look at him. I really did, but I could feel it. His eyes on me. Every time I turned a page, every time I sighed or shifted in my seat, I felt it. Why was he always staring? I slammed the book shut. He looked up. Is something wrong, Your Highness? I stood. Yes, you. That made him blink. I walked toward him. You don't speak. You don't smile. You barely even blink. You just watch me, like I'm some mission, some object, like I don't even matter unless I'm under attack. I expected him to say something, to deny it, to apologize, but he just said, You do matter. That stopped me. What? You matter, he repeated, quieter this time. That's why I watch. I stared at him, heart pounding suddenly. That wasn't what I expected. Days passed, then weeks. I got used to his steps behind me, to his silence, to the way his eyes followed me from shadow to sunlight. But something had changed. He didn't feel cold anymore. He still didn't smile, still didn't talk much. But sometimes I caught him staring a little too long. When I laughed at something, when I brushed my hair back, when I took off my coat. Once I walked too fast down the stone steps and nearly slipped. He caught me. His hand on my arm was strong, steady, warm. His eyes met mine, just for a second. Couldn't breathe. Then he let go and stepped back like nothing had happened. But everything had changed. One evening, I was walking the palace halls alone, or I thought I was. I told him to take the night off. He didn't argue, but something told me he wouldn't listen. I stopped by the tall window, staring out at the moon. The garden looked different at night. Darker, deeper, quieter. And then I felt it. presence behind me. You didn't leave, I said without turning. No, he replied softly. I finally turned to face him. Why? He looked at me for a long time. His eyes weren't cold now. They were something else, something warmer, something I didn't know how to name. I don't trust anyone else with you. I took a step closer. Is that loyalty? He hesitated. At first, yes. And now? He didn't answer. I could feel my heart beating in my chest. Loud, fast. I took another step. His hand twitched by his side. Rowan. He looked down, jaw tight. You shouldn't be this close to me. Why? I'm supposed to protect you, not want you. The silence after that felt like a thunderstorm. Heavy, waiting to break. The next morning, things were different again. He stood by my side as usual, calm and unreadable. But I noticed the way he kept clenching his fists. I noticed how he didn't meet my eyes anymore. And I noticed how badly I wanted him to. Later that night, as I lay in bed, I whispered into the darkness, "Are you there?" There was silence. Then, yes. I turned my head. He was standing by the balcony door, shadows curling around his body, the moonlight tracing the edge of his jaw. Why are you still awake? I told you, I don't trust anyone else. I sat up slowly. Come here. He didn't move. I said, come here, Rowan. He walked to the side of the bed, standing like a statue. Sit. Another pause. Then he sat on the edge, careful, distant. I reached out and touched his hand. He flinched slightly, then stilled. Do you feel anything when I touch you? I asked quietly. His jaw tightened. Yes. I looked up at him. And you're still going to act like it means nothing? He didn't speak. So I leaned forward, close enough to feel his breath, close enough to fall. I think I want you to watch me, I whispered. Even when you shouldn't. His breathing changed. So did mine. He stood suddenly and left the room. But I smiled into my pillow, because he didn't slam the door. He never would. Rowan's hands were on me. Not rough. Not the way you'd expect a soldier's hands to be. His were firm, yes, but gentle. His fingers pressed against my bare side, right where the blade had scraped me hours ago. The pain was nothing compared to the heat rushing up my chest. I should have pulled away, but I didn't, couldn't. His thumb moved slowly over the bruise near my rib, and I flinched. Not because it hurt, but because of him. Because he was kneeling between my legs, close, too close, his breath fanning across my skin. The fire crackled nearby, the only sound in the little forest clearing we'd taken shelter in after the ambush. His eyes, sharp like ice and storm, looked up into mine. Does it still hurt? Rowan's voice was low, careful. I swallowed. No, not really. And that was when he leaned in, his lips brushing the bruise like a whisper. I stopped breathing. The attack had come fast. One moment we were riding through the woods on our way back from that awful diplomatic visit, and the next arrows flew past us. Rowan didn't hesitate. He drew his sword before I could even open my mouth, threw me behind a tree, and took down 3 of them before the rest ran. I'd never seen him like that. His usual quiet, cold self replaced by something fierce, untouchable. He moved like water, like death. We lost our horses. My guards were scattered. Rowan and I barely escaped, running through the woods until we found this spot. Now we were alone, in the dark, and I was half naked with a bleeding cut and a pounding heart. He peeled the ripped tunic from my shoulder carefully. You should have stayed behind me. You pushed me against a tree and vanished, I muttered. Hard to stay behind when you disappear. He didn't laugh. Rowan never did. But the corner of his mouth lifted. Still reckless, Your Highness. You can call me Aster. He paused, looking straight at me. That wouldn't be proper. I gave him a tired smile. We're not in court. You're not wearing your armor. I'm shirtless. I think we passed proper about 5 minutes ago. Another flicker of something in his eyes. This time he didn't argue. He reached for the little bottle of salve from his pack and dipped his fingers in it. I braced myself for the sting. Instead, I shivered. His fingers moved slow, tracing the shape of my ribs, careful not to hurt me. I wanted to lean into the touch. My head swam from more than just the pain. It was the way his jaw clenched when he looked at the wound. The way his body blocked the cold night wind from touching me. The way he was completely silent, but I could feel everything he wasn't saying. I couldn't stop staring at him. "You're not just my bodyguard, are you?" I whispered. He didn't stop moving, but his fingers froze for just a second. "What do you mean?" I met his gaze. "You look at me like you want to protect me from more than just blades." He went very still. Then he stood. I almost grabbed him. "Don't. You should rest." I sat up straighter, the blanket falling from my shoulder. "Rowan." His name in my mouth felt heavy, warm. "I'm not a fool. You watch me too closely. You don't look at anyone else the way you look at me. And when I got hurt tonight, your hands were shaking." He didn't say anything. "I'm not trying to make things difficult for you," I said gently. "I know what your job is. I know you have rules. But I'm not made of glass, Rowan. And I don't want to pretend anymore." Silence. Then he took a slow step forward. Then another. Until he was right in front of me, the firelight making his eyes glow gold and silver. He crouched down again. "You don't know what you're asking. Then tell me." He reached up, fingers brushing my jaw. It was the softest touch I'd ever felt. "I've wanted to do this for months," he whispered. I didn't move, and then his lips were on mine. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't wild. It was slow, and deep, and quiet, like a promise. His lips moved against mine carefully, like he was afraid I'd break. But I didn't break. Kissed him back. I grabbed his shoulder, then his neck, pulled him closer until there was no space between us. His hand slid to my waist, fingers flexing, like he didn't want to let go. I could feel the strength in him, all that sharpness under control. It made my head spin. I never knew someone could be so dangerous and still kiss like this. Like I was something to worship. When we finally pulled back, I was breathless. "Rowan." He pressed his forehead against mine. "Say my name like that again and I'll forget every damn rule I ever swore to follow." "Then forget them," I whispered. His hand cupped my cheek. "You don't understand. I can't be yours, Aster. I'm here to protect you, not to want you." "But you do want me," I said, voice barely a breath. "Don't lie." He looked down, his jaw clenched. "I want you more than I should." My heart beat faster. "I want to kiss you every time you smile. I want to carry you out of every meeting that upsets you. I want to guard your body with mine and touch you every night until you forget you're a prince." I blinked. My whole body felt like fire. "Then do it," I whispered. "No one's watching." He hesitated for one more heartbeat. Then he kissed me again. This time it wasn't soft. It was hungry. His hands pulled me into his lap, arms wrapping around me like I was the most precious thing he'd ever held. I let myself fall into him, lips moving fast, desperate, full of everything we hadn't said for weeks. It wasn't just heat. It was everything, all at once. When we finally stopped, our chests were heaving. My head rested against his shoulder, and his arms stayed tight around me. He didn't let go. "I don't know what happens after this," I said softly. "I'll protect you. That's all I know." "Even from yourself?" He didn't answer, but the way he held me tighter told me all I needed to know. It started with one night. I didn't expect it to happen again. I thought Rowan would pretend nothing happened, that he would put up that wall again, that cold, sharp wall of duty. But he didn't. He came back, and the next night, and the next. The first time he came, I was already in bed. I hadn't even taken off my robe. My head was still spinning from the kiss we shared 2 nights ago. The way his hand shook against my skin as he cleaned the wound on my chest. How his lips brushed mine so slowly I thought I imagined it. But I didn't, because when I heard the knock on my door that night and whispered, "Come in," it was him, Rowan. His eyes searched mine before the door even closed behind him. He looked tired, like he hadn't slept, like he'd been fighting something inside himself. "I shouldn't be here," he said. "You're already here," I whispered. He didn't speak again. He just came forward, slowly, like he was scared of his own steps. He didn't wear his armor, just a black tunic and loose pants. His hair was wet, as if he just washed it. His boots thudded softly on the stone floor. I sat up, my chest tightening. "You're bleeding again," he murmured. I scratched it while dressing. He knelt beside the bed, fingers already going to the ties of my robe. I should have felt shy, but all I felt was heat, and his hands, rough, big, steady, touched my skin like it was the softest thing he'd ever known. "I think about you," I confessed before I could stop myself. His hands stilled. "I know I shouldn't, but I do. Every time I close my eyes, you're there." Rowan exhaled sharply, like I just punched him in the stomach. "I'm supposed to protect you. That's all," he said, but his voice was hoarse. "Then stop touching me like this." He looked up at me. Our faces were close. My robe was open halfway, and I could feel his breath on my chest. "I can't stop," he said, and then he kissed me. After that night, there was no pretending. He'd come when the castle was quiet, after the guards changed, after the halls were empty. I didn't have to ask. I just left the door unlocked. Sometimes we didn't even talk. He'd slip inside like a shadow, his sword left by the door, his boots abandoned somewhere in the dark. He'd climb into bed, and I'd already be waiting. The first few times he was careful, gentle. His hands would cup my face like I'd shatter. His kisses were slow, deep. He'd pull away to breathe me in. But soon, the silence between us turned hotter, messier, desperate. I remember one night in particular. The wind was loud, banging the shutters against the tower walls. I was already shivering when Rowan arrived. His cloak was soaked, his hair dripping down his face. "You're cold," I said, rising from the bed. "I ran here," he replied, eyes fixed on mine. "Why?" "Because I needed you." I didn't have time to respond before he was on me, lifting me, pressing me against the wall, his mouth crashing into mine like he couldn't wait, like he'd break apart if he didn't touch me right now. He tasted like rain. I wrapped my legs around him, fingers gripping his soaked tunic. His kisses moved to my jaw, my throat, my chest, where the scar from the ambush still healed. "I could have lost you," he murmured there. "But you didn't." He placed his forehead against my heart. "Don't make me fall for you," he whispered. "I already have," I said. He looked at me. His eyes glistened, and then he kissed me again, so softly it broke me. The days were harder. We had to act like nothing was happening. At meetings, he stood behind me like always, quiet, tall, still. No one suspected anything. No one noticed the way his eyes followed every movement I made, or how mine drifted back to him like a magnet. I wanted to touch him, all the time, but I couldn't, so at night I made up for it. Sometimes we didn't even make it to the bed. Once, he pinned me against the table, his armor half undone, his mouth on my neck, his hands under my robes. I moaned, helpless, needing him, clinging to him like I'd drown without him. "I'm yours," he whispered against my ear. "Only yours." Another time, I climbed into his room instead. I wasn't supposed to. I wore a dark cloak and slipped past the guards like a thief. His eyes widened when he saw me, but then he pulled me inside and shut the door. "You shouldn't be here," he said, lips already brushing mine. "You didn't come last night." I was afraid. So was I. He kissed me, and it was the most tender thing I'd ever known. But as the nights grew longer, I started to wonder, how long could this last? Would someone find out? Would he leave? Would he be taken from me? Sometimes I woke up in the middle of the night, my arms around him, terrified. I'd hold him tighter, and he'd stir, whispering my name like it was the only word that mattered. "Aster," he'd say, "I've got you. I'll never leave you." But I didn't believe him. Not fully. Because Rowan belonged to the crown, not to me, and I was the crown. Still, I let myself fall deeper. Every touch, every sigh, every whispered promise made me forget who we were. Prince and protector, royal and servant, worlds apart. In the dark, we were just two men, two hearts, two mouths, Two bodies tangled in a love that shouldn't be. But was. One night, after everything, he pulled me into his chest and said, "If the world finds out, I'll take the blame." I looked up at him. "I don't want to hide anymore," I said. "I'll protect you." "No, this time we protect each other." He smiled, brushing hair from my face. "Even if it kills me," he whispered. I kissed him then, slow and deep, and I meant every second, because I knew I would give up my crown for him. But I wasn't sure he'd let me. The moment I heard the sound of steel being drawn, I didn't think. I moved. My body pushed forward on instinct, like every muscle had been trained for this moment. No hesitation, no second thoughts. I threw myself in front of Prince Aster just as the assassin lunged from the shadows, the glint of a dagger flashing beneath the moonlight. The blade found me. Hot pain exploded in my side, sharp and burning. I gasped, the sound barely making it past my lips. The dagger sank deep into my flesh, a sickening crunch following as I stumbled back into Aster's arms. "Rowan," he whispered, his voice trembling. The assassin tried to run, but the guards, finally alerted, rushed in. Screams followed. Metal clashed. But all I could focus on was Aster's hands gripping my shoulders, his wide eyes full of horror. I blinked up at him, trying to focus. "You, okay? You idiot," he breathed. "You absolute, stupid, noble idiot." I could feel his fingers shaking against my chest as he held me up, blood seeping through my uniform, staining his soft blue robes. "I told you to stay back," I said, voice raspy, forcing a smile despite the pain. "And I told you not to die," he snapped. My knees buckled. He caught me. The palace guards dragged the assassin away, but Aster didn't let go. He lowered me to the stone floor of the courtyard, cradling my head in his lap, pushing my blood-matted hair from my forehead. "You're going to be okay," he whispered. "Rowan, look at me." His hands pressed against the wound in my side. He was shaking so badly he could barely stop the bleeding. "You're going to be fine," he repeated, over and over like a prayer. "You're not leaving me. You're not." I wanted to respond, wanted to reassure him, but everything started to blur. The moon overhead twisted into spirals. My hearing dulled. My chest heaved, trying to hold on to breath and warmth. And then his lips were on mine, desperate, full of trembling love and fear. My eyes widened. He kissed me like I was his only reason to stay standing. Like if he poured enough of himself into me, I wouldn't fade away. It wasn't soft. It was messy, raw, soaked in tears and blood. And something inside me lit up. A sharp heat surged through my chest, racing through my veins like fire. My fingers twitched. Magic. The prince's magic. His power passed through blood, touch, and emotion. The kiss had triggered it, pouring into my body like sunlight after a storm. I gasped sharply, pain mixing with relief. The wound still burned, but my heartbeat steadied. My vision returned. I was healing. Aster looked stunned, eyes glassy. I didn't mean to," he stammered. "I just thought. You saved me," I rasped, touching his cheek. "Again. I didn't want to lose you. I'd take that blade 100 times if it meant you'd live." His lips trembled. "Don't say that. It's true." Silence fell between us for a moment. His eyes searched mine, then he bent forward again, this time slower, more certain, and kissed me once more. This kiss wasn't desperate. It was soft, warm, like a promise. I wasn't allowed to move for the next few days. The palace physician stitched me up, scolded me for being reckless, and warned the prince to stop sneaking into the infirmary bed with me. Of course, Aster ignored him. Every night after the guards changed shifts, he slipped in and curled beside me, brushing hair from my face, whispering about the things we'd do when I got better. "You'll take me to the coast," he said one night, fingers tracing lazy circles on my chest. "No guards, no duties, just you and me watching the waves. I'll carry you there myself," I whispered. He smiled, kissed my forehead. "Deal." When I was finally strong enough to walk, Aster took me out to the palace garden. Our secret place from months ago, before everything changed. The moon was full again, just like that night. He held my hand without hesitation, fingers laced with mine, warm and sure. "I love you," he said suddenly, stopping under the old cherry tree. My heart stumbled in my chest. "I didn't know I could," he went on. "Not with how I was raised, how I was taught to see people as servants or threats or pawns. But you changed everything." I cupped his face gently, smiling. "I love you too, Aster." He leaned into my touch. "Then stay, not just as my bodyguard. Stay as mine. Be with me publicly, as my consort, as my heart." "A prince and a soldier?" I raised an eyebrow. "They'll talk. Let them." He smirked. "They've always talked. But this time, they'll talk about how I finally got what I wanted." I pulled him close. "You've had me from the start. 1 year later, they still call me Commander Rowan now. But I live in the prince's chamber. I kiss him before breakfast. I dress him when the servants leave. I still carry a sword, but now I protect more than just his life. I guard his heart. He's a little less reckless these days. Still stubborn, still clever. But when no one's watching, he melts into me like I'm his only home. Sometimes, late at night, he whispers, "Thank you for taking that blade." And every time I reply, "I'd do it again," because for him, I'd bleed 1,000 times. But now I get to live for him too. Thank you for watching the love story between the bodyguard and the prince. If you love this enemy lovers, slow burn, protective romance, leave a comment and tell us your favorite scene. And don't forget, new stories drop daily. Subscribe so you don't miss the next heart-fluttering, tear-jerking BL story.